There are few things you just can't have enough of, and magazines are one of those things. And I'm stocking up right now on more magazines because our history has shown us that anytime a conflict escalates, they become a little bit more scarce, harder to acquire, and at some point in time, they might just not be acquirable anymore. And I don't even know if that's a real word. But this is why I'm stocking up on magazines. There's a lot happening right now, and there's some reasons why I think it might be a good idea for you to take a look at your inventory to see if that's maybe something you should be doing too. And I just want to say, if there's any truth to the fact that translucent magazines are less durable than opaque magazines, then let me know in the comments below because I'm just not sure about that. Now, first off, we had the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And when that happened, gun sales spiked in the US for obvious reasons. And of course, the sales weren't as high as they were the year before, but in the post-pandemic slowdown, it was still a significant spike because of that invasion. And then during that whole process, while everybody was scrambling to figure out what to do, the NSSF, or the National Shooting Sports Foundation, tried to help streamline the process for manufacturers to get products across the ocean over to Ukraine to help arm Ukrainians. And extra magazines was one of the items on the list of requests from Ukraine. Now, something to keep in mind there is the fact that we're talking about Ukraine. They have a very large military force. And for some reason, they still needed more magazines, which should tell you something about how many magazines we all might actually need. And keep in mind that militaries view things like magazines as disposable items because if you ever are in a situation where you're using them for what they are created for, you aren't going to go pick all the empties up possibly, right? There's a lot of things that could contribute to the idea that you might just be out of magazines at that point in time. So keep all of that in mind. Now, there was also the attack on October 7th on Israel that created another spike in US gun sales. And for obvious reasons, people were suddenly concerned about the fact that this can just happen, apparently. And magazines were immediately requested by Israel via donor donation drives. And once again, another heavily militarized country that has a mandatory service requirement of their citizenship or of their citizens, and they asked for extra magazines. Now, of course, you can't just ship magazines overseas, even if they're for donation purposes, without jumping through a whole bunch of red tape. But either way, that was a major request. Why would they need more magazines? Because you always need more magazines. So this should tell you what to anticipate if any of these conflicts escalate to a further degree. Now, I do want to mention that Midway USA is the biggest supporter of the channel. And of course, thanks to them, I have the ability to acquire more magazines and other things of that nature. So a big thanks to Midway USA for supporting this channel. Now, back when all that was happening, especially back in October, a distributor that I work with was pretty much out of PMags, the Gen M3 PMags to be specific. And that was concerning for me because I thought, hey, I might just want to pick up some more magazines, and apparently they're suddenly becoming much harder to come by. And that's something that you should be aware of in case you have that on the list of things you need more of and you haven't necessarily made the move yet. If you wait until another conflict escalation occurs, there's a good chance you might either end up paying more or having a hard time finding some of those magazines, especially regarding more obscure magazines. For example, here we have 20-round Lancer magazines for the SR25 pattern, 7.62 by 51 NATO, right? These are more expensive than your typical 5.56 PMags or USGI style mags, and they are harder to come by during said shortages. And of course, we have, a 20-round PMag version of the same style of magazine, SR25, and both these magazines are good. I'm trying out the Lancers because there are some things I've seen related to the firearms platform I'm using them for that they might be better for than the PMags. But either way, these are the types of magazines you might want to be getting now before it's too hard to acquire them because they're not as in high a supply as some other more typical magazines like your standard PMags and 5.56. I also have Glock mags, which are generally going to be in higher supply, but it's good to pick up more when you can. And then of course, if you're running something like an HK, That's going to be even harder to come by because these are more expensive and the demand just isn't quite there. So the supply isn't going to be as high and won't be able to compete if that demand were to raise. And of course, what's nice is these VP9 mags actually work in, I don't know, USP compacts, and that's kind of cool. So, a legacy firearm that's accepting newly manufactured magazines, I'm not too upset about it. But these are things you might want to consider if you have proprietary or obscure magazine requirements. Those might be something you want to prioritize over even some of the stuff that's even more accessible. Now, we also always have the typical government control coming towards magazines, which is just never ending. They're never going to stop that, right? They're going to keep doing it. They've shown us that, and it just keeps coming. And you never know when that might actually make its way through. And even if you don't necessarily agree with what's being done, manufacturers and retailers tend to be in a tough situation where there's not much they can do about it, and that supply suddenly diminishes. And so right now we have the Keep Americans Safe Act that keeps getting pushed forward and would immediately affect your ability to own standard capacity magazines. So this is a real issue, and it keeps happening. Look, I'm just stocking up. I know SR25 mags like these are more expensive, but also can be harder to come by because there's not as much demand, so there's not as high of a supply. I also know that things like HK mags are more expensive, but also could become harder to come by, right? And then of course, your standards like your 5.56P mags or your Glock mags or everything else like that are just going to have extras of anyway. But personally, I've done pretty well in that department, but now I need to branch out and start supplementing some of the more obscure platforms that I have in order to make sure that that's not going to be an issue as well. So, if you want a suggestion from me, I'm just going to throw this out there. Magpul PMags, pretty much good to go. Best bang for your buck, in my opinion. Throwing that out there, no big deal. Listen, this is just my strategy. I like to share what I'm working on with all of you. Hopefully, this is something that you either already are doing or now that you're aware of some of these issues we run into every time a conflict escalates, you might think twice about holding off on prioritizing some of those additional magazine requirements you might have. But let me know in the comments below what you think is a good idea in regards to, I don't know, which ones you should be focusing on or how many or whatever else you want to throw in there that might help somebody who's not sure about what they should be striving for, especially in this department. So, any other questions at all you have for me, go to magicprepper.com. And besides that, it's going to be it for Magic Prepper.